so much for joining us this week for the Dragonblade Authors Unplugged chat. We have USA Today bestselling authors Jade Lee and Emily EK Murdoch, and also Dragonblade author Bella Moxie. I'm so excited to talk to you ladies. We've been having fun backstage already, so I'm really anxious to have this conversation. Thanks for joining us today.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
So I know we're all over the we're literally all over the world for this one, and in many different places. So
yeah, time zones have been fun.
And Jade was kind enough to join us from her car while she's driving. So not actually actively driving, but pause for.
Not actively driving. I am sitting in a Waffle House parking lot.
Well, hopefully there will be waffles in your future, or those fries with the gravy on. I like those kind too. So, ladies, thanks for joining us. We had 3 Dragonblade releases this week. They're the covers for these are so good.
I can't hear any of you.
Oh no! Oh no!
Talk amongst yourselves.
well, thank you. Well, since Emily's book releases first this week, let's start with Emily. Can you tell us a little bit about your book? It's the last book in the Governess Bureau series. Is that right?
It is indeed. Yeah, this is book 6, Governess of Wise Years. So if you haven't been reading along, shame on you. You absolutely should have been. There's 5 books to enjoy. Go pause this video, go and buy them, read them, come back, then we can continue. All right. Okay, so now you've read them, and obviously you love them. You're very excited about the 6th and final book. This is the story of the owner of the Governess Bureau. So Miss Vivian Clark has kind of appeared in all of the stories up until now, but she hasn't really had her own chance at Happily Ever After. And this feels like a second chance romance. I think it's probably the closest I've got to a second chance. She's a little older, she's a little wiser, she's very sure of what she wants, she's very sure of what she deserves. I've got an unlikable but redeemable hero, a mischievous but lovable adopted child. What's not to love about this book?
All you need is like a cat or a rabbit or something fluffy to go in there, and it's perfect.
I considered putting in a pet, and I thought, this is just getting too much. There's too much going on. You know, this series has been really fun for me because it's the first series where there's been quite substantial subplots in every book. So I've had spies, I've had gangs of criminals, I've had mysterious and mistaken identity. And once you start packing those in, you don't want to leave the hero and the heroine alone for too long. You really want to progress their story and see them fall in love. So I put a pet in and I took a pet out.
Oh, I love the setup for this series. I love the idea of governesses finding their way, because they have a little bit more agency, I think, than lots of Regency heroines did. So
I think this is the thing that I found so fascinating about governesses. They're in this really weird space where they're kind of family but kind of servants, and kind of educated but kind of not allowed to do anything with that education. You know, they're respected in the household with an honorific. You know, they're Miss whoever, not just their first name. But at the same time, they don't get any of the respect that any other Miss who came to visit for the day would receive. And I find that such a fascinating perspective. And, you know, what's more exciting than living under the same roof as someone you've got the hots for, but you're not allowed to touch?
That's perfect. That's perfect.
I love a good governess story.
Yeah.
Right. And I've been thinking about doing one for a while, and I thought, oh, it's really difficult to kind of wedge a governess into a series of friends or series of family, which is typically how I write my series. And then I thought, you know what? I just got to go all in. I've got to have a whole series of governesses. So in the end, that's how it came about.
Yeah. And since Miss Vivian gets her story this time, then I'm assuming that there will be no more Governess Bureau.
This is the big thing. So I did a live video on launch day on my author page on Tuesday. And as part of that, I kind of talked a little bit about the number one question that I've been getting the last few weeks, which is, why is this the last one? We want more. We love the Governess Bureau series, which, let's be fair, is fantastic to hear. Thank you. I'm delighted that readers love it. But at the same time, I kind of created this series with Miss Vivian Clark's story as an arc over the top of it on purpose. Yeah. I wanted to kind of tease her and then pull her to the fore. And, you know, the big question for her going into this book is, will the Governess Bureau survive? It's been racked by scandal for the last 5 books. And the main question on her heart going in, she's not looking for love, she's not looking for a happily ever after. Her happily ever after is keeping the governess bureau going.
Well, because the governesses keep scooting off and finding their happily ever afters with clients. So.
Right. It's just so annoying. And I thought, if you go to look at the book, and the big question is, will the governess bureau continue? And you see there's 4 more books afterwards. Well, the question's answered for you before you even open the book. Of course it continues, because there's 4 more books. This way, if you're watching this video and you haven't read it, you don't know if it continues. You don't know if it continues with her, you don't know if it continues without her, and you don't know whether it ends. And to do that, you got to read the book.
That is a solid plan, and more than enough reasons to read the book.
Thank you.
Jay, can you hear us now? I think Jade might have a little bit.
Are we talking to me?
Yes, I'm talking to you.
Well,
can you do the air traffic controller thing?
Okay, I can hear you now.
Oh, good. So your book is Lady Scott, and it's the second book in the Always a Scot series. Is that right? And it started with that brooding.
That is right.
With that incredibly brooding Scotsman on the cover of the last one, and this one.
Well, this one is Mary, who was promised to the hero of Lord Scott, but then he shows up with an English bride, and she's like, "I hate you. I hate men. I forget it. You Scotsmen are awful, and I'm gonna go to London where I will meet a nice Sassenach, English milquetoast man, and I will be happy. Darn it," although she doesn't use that word, "and y'all can just go away." So she goes down to London, and she's got a little bit of a problem. She has a dowry, but she kind of gets lost in London because she doesn't know her way around London, and then she gets robbed, and so that causes a bit of a problem. Mm-hmm. But anyway, the hero has loved her since they were young, and he was kind of an idiot adolescent because, adolescents are dumb, both male and female. And so he follows her to London, and then he has to woo her back to Scotland when she is 100% all the Scottish. No, I'm English from here on out. And she's really not. But it's just one of those very...
No, go ahead.
It's just one of those very fun, antic books where the hero is pursuing the heroine, and she finally says, "Well, maybe."
I had to figure out a way how to say that she was done with Scotsman that wasn't the way that she said in the blurb, because Facebook did not like the way you said it in the blurb.
Oops.
But it was so funny. It was so perfect, It's like you could almost hear it in her voice when she's saying, "I am done. They don't know their head from it." It's like so
that's true.
She had to tweak it a little bit so that
And who among us has never said men are stupid or something more colorful?
I have teenage sons. I say it all the time.
There you go.
Oh, that sounds like so much fun. And there's another book planned in the series. Is that right? Is this a 3-book series or?
Yes. It's 3 and growing. So Almost a Scot comes out in the fall.
Oh, great. Something to look forward to. Well, that sounds like very much fun. And I like I said, when I read the blurb and I was sitting at the ads, it just you can hear it in her voice. It just sounds like such a good romp. So awesome. So Bella, your first book with Dragonblade is The Duke's Defiant Angel, and it is I didn't write down the series name.
It's Duke's Gone Dirty. Duke's Gone Dirty.
Because it was naughty. I remember thinking when I was reading the series, it was
it's super naughty. It's super duper naughty. I think it's one of the first of the flame line that Dragonblade is doing. So it's like super, naughty. Capital N.
There's lots
hopefully
of
people are okay with that one. Yeah, I feel like I need to give like a fair warning in advance. It's super naughty, but I'm loving it. I'm having lots of fun writing this series, so it's good. Yeah, it's so the first one is the series is called Duke's Gone Dirty. which gives a lot away right there. So there's about a group of guys who they're alpha to the max, basically. They're super alpha males, and they decide that this is the year they're going to get married for one reason or another. They've been putting it off, and the Duke is the first one. He's Raph, Duke of Rathian, so his name's Raph, and he ends up with Evangeline. And the whole concept came about because I thought it would be really funny for one of these alpha heroes to just fall for a woman who, like, he thinks she's a doormat, and then he marries her and finds out, oh no, this is my worst nightmare, Okay. So that's basically the situation there. I think we just lost Jade.
Dark.
So he does. That's what happens basically. He kind of steamrolls her into marriage every time. She's just very shy because she doesn't have a lot of experience in society, and he mistakes that for being easy and a simple woman. And then it turns out though that this is not what she wants. And as soon as they get married, basically the gauntlet is thrown down where it's a battle of wills throughout the rest of the book, and they're each trying to break each other down, and
he can marry her, but he
leads to
can
the
have her
bedroom.
heart. Perfect.
What's that? Yeah,
he can marry her,
exactly.
but he can have her heart. It's perfect.
Yeah, exactly. So she's trying to withhold her heart, and he's trying to wear her down using the only means he knows how, which is seducing her a lot. Often. There's a lot of seduction going on.
I love that. Some of my favorite types of stories are where the wedding's in like the first third or first half, and then you get the actual falling in love and connecting in a way that they couldn't have connected before they were married.
Yeah, absolutely, because they both have very bad impressions of each other on their wedding night. So yeah, that's it.
Awesome. I love the ones where the heroine isn't what the Duke or isn't what the hero expects either. It's like when they come in with preconceived ideas, and it's like, no, she's not going to fit into the box that you have her in your head either.
Yeah,
awesome.
exactly.
That sounds like so much fun. And so the series setup for that is a group of male friends that have decided to wed.
Exactly. And then there's actually a spin-off novella series that's going to be getting underway called Rogues Gone Dirty. So it's like the dirty underside of this world.
Like, just dirty,
a lot of dirty
everywhere.
How many books are they going to be? Just casually asking, just for a friend.
Your friend, right?
Three. So far, 3 have been written. I don't know. We'll see. I'll tell you what, the kinky, dirty thing is a little new to me. So I'm like, we'll see. I'm fully expecting some people to be shocked.
But it's the Flame series, and that is a higher heat, isn't it? So I think that's fun.
Yeah. I mean,
I love that
I'm
you
having
can
fun.
Know what you're getting going into it too, and then you can choose the flavor that you want for the time that you're reading. We have Sweet Dreams, we have Flames, we have Legends, we have Originals. You can choose the flavor you want. I don't want chocolate all the time or vanilla all the time. I want all of them.
All the time.
Exactly. All the time.
I like vanilla with chocolate chips.
There we go.
The fudge would be even better, but Well, that sounds like so much fun. So, well, ladies, can we talk a little bit about the kind of thought that goes into your series, because we have such 3 disparate series this time. Emily, I know you're going from this one to a family saga series.
Yeah. So one of the things, so when Violetta Rand, who's my amazing editor and a brilliant historical romance writer in her own right at Dragonblade, when she and I are chatting about a new series, one of the things she asks for is like a 1-page summary of the book. So it's only like 2 or 3 sentences per book, but it just gives an idea of where the series is going. And that means that I have to think about where the series is going right at the beginning, which really plays into my kind of planning, plotting character, which is a relief, because I think if I wasn't that person, I'd find kind of looking that far ahead really difficult. But I do like to look at things in kind of 3s or 4s. So even in a series, I kind of like to think, okay, so the first 3 are going to be this kind of direction, and the next 3 or the next 4 actually are going to complicate that and kind of subvert the reader's expectations and challenge me as a writer and go in that way. And so that's what I kind of send to Violetta, and she'll come back to me and go, I like this, I don't like that, this is cool, that title might need work. But it kind of gives us an opportunity to agree where we're going before I even start writing the first word of the series.
And Jade, your series this time was a spin-off from the Lords of the Masquerade series. Is that right? So there was a series that
Right.
started and then Always a Scot kind of spun off of that.
I did not expect to go to Scotland. I really didn't, but I ended up there, and then there are more women that just said hello, and so it just, I mean, the series keeps growing. There's a heroine, secondary, she will be a heroine in Lady Scott, who just showed up. I started writing and she showed up, and her hero is right there from one of the Lords of the Masquerades back in Reuben.
Cool.
We're talking Reuben.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so it just, once these people show up, and then once, you know, I'll maybe give a title, or I'll write one sentence, but when it's time to actually write the book, I mean, right now I'm doing a ton of research into witches in Scotland, because I'm not making her actually supernatural really, but there's a lot of superstition in the female line behind her, and that's
I love
okay,
how
I don't know what someone just said.
Really, and I'm like, so is she kind of supernatural?
Yeah, I was like,
Okay.
so much fun.
Oh, sounds amazing.
Oh well. Anyway, so a lot of research goes into it, and then I take a 17-hour drive and start sorting through stuff. So I do a lot of plotting while I drive.
Nice.
How do you keep track of things while you're driving? Do you have a way to because I know, Emily, we've talked to you before about your writing process, and you write, you're the most awesome plotter ever. But Jade, how do you keep track of things for yourself?
Well, after I write it, I have a beta reader who keeps track of everything. But I'll pull over into a Waffle House parking lot and make notes, and then I'll, get back on and figure out the next step.
Okay.
But
So,
I've often, if it doesn't stick in my head, it wasn't supposed to stay.
well, that makes sense. Like, that makes a certain amount of sense if it's a big enough idea to hold on to.
We are very different people.
Yes.
Very different.
Nobody's like me.
Like, I have like notes and voice notes on my phone from like 2 a.m. where I'm like, she's really his sister's friend, and I'm like, what? It is like, if I don't write it down, it doesn't stay in my head at all. Like anything, everything has to be written down.
Bella sneaking off.
If I write it down, it disappears from my head, and it doesn't find its way. Anything I write down disappears, and so it doesn't get woven in. I've written down stuff and found it like a month later and gone, oh, well, that would have been really cool to remember. Oh well.
So, Bella, you're doing a spin-off series of novellas too. How do you go about setting up your series? How do you go about figuring out?
It started with this Duke's Gone Dirty series, and I'm having so much fun. Did I unmute myself? Okay, good. I had to run off. My son's homesick, and I just heard mom, like in the back. I was like, I better go see if anyone's
on fire or bleeding.
Yeah, everything's okay. So I'm having so much fun with it. It all started with the Duke's Gone Dirty, and what I loved about plotting this series is that it's this interconnected group of male friends, as I said, and they're so macho and alpha. And what I love about that is like watching them interact in each other's books, because the further it goes in, I just finished the third book, and you really see that friendship going on, which I just like kind of love. I mean, I'm like a sucker for a good bromance too, as well as romance. So I just think that is like my favorite part of plotting this, is kind of trying to find those moments where you could put them in there and see them like kind of come to each other's aid and help each other and help them, that whole thing. So I think for me, it's like, I don't get caught up too much. I'm not a great plotter. I'm more of a, like you, Emily, I'm like, I was, I kind of had to give Violetta an outline thing, but I strayed from it quite a bit. I'm not sure. But so for me, it kind of just comes down to the characters and making sure that the characters are acting the way they should act and stay true to themselves and their motives the entire series. So, but I just, I love it. I was kind of like sad to end the third one because like the bromance for these three were coming to an end, and I was like, but they're such cute friends. You know, I love watching them together. So.
Well, and we love seeing, like, as a reader, I love seeing characters that I've fallen in love with before come back. I love being able to revisit. So I think that that's always so much fun.
I love it in books I'm reading. And when I started writing for Dragonblade, I made a promise to myself that I would have at least one character who appears in pretty much every book. And so far, I have managed that.
Like all of the books, because your series are series are really long.
Most people don't notice that she's in every single one. Like she is in pretty much every single one, but sometimes like she's just in a scene. She's just there. They're like, oh, so-and-so's there. And in some books, like she has a kind of speaking role, like she's kind of, you know, gossiping in a corner. And in one of them, she's got quite a major role. And now in a second one, and the more I write her, the more I realize that she is just me in the story.
Easter eggs to look for now.
Do you want me to say who it is?
That's brilliant.
Okay, so it's Lady Romeril. Lady Romeril is in almost every single book. She's very high class. She's kind of middle-aged, kind of later middle-aged in my Never the Bride series, and she's always there critiquing someone or putting down a debutante or scandalizing someone or speaking what everyone in the room is thinking but not saying. In my Governess Bureau series, she's constantly criticizing the governesses and spreading gossip and kind of writing scandalous letters. And in my new series, the De Petrus saga, which is a family saga, I was like, this is it. We're going to have her as like a secondary character. So she is the close friend of the matriarch of my De Petrus family. And she appears so far in books 1 and 2, and I don't know how now to get rid of her.
Oh, that's so much fun. That's awesome. Like Find the Hummingbird in the Birds and Blooms magazine.
Yeah, so she's outrageous and she's scandalous. She's high enough in society to say whatever she wants. She can make or break reputations by the time that she's older. But in my De Petrus saga, we go right to the point where she's a relatively new mother, and actually you get to see the beginnings of Lady Romeril and who she becomes and how she gets all the power in society. And I realize I can't stop writing her because she's exactly the sort of person that I would like to be and am not.
So
that is absolutely brilliant. I commend you.
I know, I can't believe it. It's like it's something for everybody. We have to make sure we put it on the Dragonblade page so people know to go look for her, because that's just
she's everywhere. She's so mean. She says the things. You know, you're sitting there and you're going, I can't say that. That's not appropriate to say. But you know everyone's thinking it. Lady Romero's the one saying it.
So Jade and Bella, do either of you find yourself putting your own voices into characters in your books? Do you find yourselves identifying either with main characters or with secondary characters when you're writing?
Definitely. I just noticed the other day that while writing, okay. Oh well, I noticed that I was actually having an inner crisis of my own, and I realized that my character was like hashing it out for me. I was like, is this wrong that I'm using my characters as like a therapist right now? Like, but it works, you know, like sometimes it works. I'm like having like an inner dialogue with myself through this conversation. I was like, I feel like I got some closure there, which is weird. Therapy, free therapy.
Jade,
my sense of humor is all. Sorry?
No, you're fine. Go ahead.
My sense of humor is all over my books, everywhere, and so they have exchanges that are my sense of. I mean, it's like, this is what I wish I could know to say if it ever came up, if whatever situation ever came up. This is what I would say. It's I'm all over my books, my opinions, my attitudes, but mostly it's my sense of humor.
Yeah, I love that. I think one of the fun things about texting instead of talking is that you have a chance to think about like think about and recraft what you want to say, and and go back and forth. So writing's a little bit like that. I imagine that you can take the time you need to come up with exactly the right thing to say.
It can backfire though. Every now and again, I'm not very funny as a person. Like I'm not very quick-witted. I'm not able to think on my feet that quickly. Like I'm just not that person in a room that's getting everyone to laugh. And every now and again, I'll be like, I'll write a witty hero. That'll be great. And then I get to his dialogue scenes and I'm like,
I can't. With enough coffee, I can be witty.
I got a review.
Gotta have enough coffee to be witty.
I got a review like a week ago that was like Emily's funniest book yet, and I screenshot it and I was like, I can do it if I take the time to think about it. It's like my books are you're laughing at them. You're not laughing because of what they're saying typically. But yeah, I sent that to a lot of my friends in real life and was like, see, I can do it. If you give me a piece of paper and a pen in about 4 weeks, I can do it.
You've got a tight 10, you just have a really long lead time,
Well, I just, say something and I'll think of a response and I'll text you.
I was drawn to the Regency initially for the banter, the witty banter. And so that's what I loved about the Regency always. And so it's taken me, 60 books to really get into the rhythm of banter, but that's what I love about the books. And there's sexy situations too, but it's about the funny banter.
That makes sense when so much of your behavior is prescribed by your social station and by the requirements of your title, then the things you say take on an extra level of meaning. So
I think it's about power as well. Like most of our female characters don't have a lot of power. They don't have a lot of agency. They don't, if they don't have dowries, they don't have any leverage. And I think that, a witty repartee with someone makes them distinguishable, but it also starts to give them power in a room. I think that's something that I found. Like I'm writing a book at the moment where I literally put like, come back and make funny. And I'm just like, in the edits, this will be better. It's got to the point where I'm like, he says partly insulting thing. She says very insulting thing back. Hilarity ensues. And I'm just like, the edits will fix it. The edits will fix it. And typically I do come back and I'm like, all right, I'm just going to do a day of funny. I'm just going to set aside a day of funny and then a day of steam and then a day of description, because sometimes it's not at your fingertips. And that can be
that's a good idea, except that I always end up hating former me, and then I have like a whole cursing out my former self when I do that. I'm like, who was this idiot who left this blank spot here? I come across it and I get all angry. I'm like,
you get to the end and you think you're done and you've just left the hard work for yourself to. Exactly.
I had COVID a few weeks ago. I'm fine now, but I had COVID and I literally, like the first day I tested negative, but I was definitely sick. And I was sitting at the computer and I was like, I just got to write one more chapter. I just got to do the thing. And I was then bedridden for a week. So then I covered over a week. I came back and I was like, right, okay, let's get back into it. I was like halfway through a scene. That'll be easy. I can just finish the scene. And I do like the last sentences. And then stuff happens, ? Finish scene, full stop. And I was like, Emily, you weren't well. You didn't know what was happening. And I had to sit there and be like, I had a great idea for how this ended. And this is not like me. I overplot. I
know, like pages and pages and pages.
Like I will write 30,000 words of plot for an 80,000 word novel. Like when I say I overplot. And then I overwrite and then I have to dial it back, and then Violet has to dial it back for me again. So to come to a page which just says stuff happens, finish scene, ? I was like, I can't do it. Pass, Emily, you've sunk me into a ditch here. I had to scrap the whole chapter and start again because I was like, I don't know where my rhythm is, I don't know where I'm going, I don't know what's happening. Very odd. Don't recommend.
Yeah. Do you find yourself having to check because when you start the book, you have some idea of who the characters are, but you don't know them the same way you do when you're 50,000 words in. And sometimes I find when you go back to the beginning and read, you have to kind of tighten the character's motivation because you know them so much better by the time you get to the end. Maybe not Emily because you've already written 30,000 words about them, but.
Because because I send
That's a me problem.
Well, because I send Violetta a series summary usually about 6 months before I even start writing the first book, because I'm trying to plot, like I try to plan out what books I'm writing a year in advance so I know where I'm going. So when I get to it, I've got my deep plot and I've lived with these characters for 6 months, and I'm kind of like, they've been living here rent free and they need to start paying their way in my brain.
Do you know how they talk and how they fall in love and all of those kind of things?
And they need to be evicted, but I can't evict them until I've written the book. Like, they need to leave because there's not room for all of them. I can see Jade being like, yes, make them leave.
Yes, very much. I have to write them down to get them to go away. And when I am in the writing phase, I just write every day. It just rolls, or I fight it or whatever until it's done. And so, yes, I'll go back at the beginning and go, oh, I dropped that thread, or that's not quite how she would say it, but it tends to flow. At least the best books do.
Mm-hmm.
I absolutely, when I used to write for 2 different publishers, you'd sell a book on 3 chapters and a proposal, and then go off and write a different book and have to come back, and that was a disaster. So at least with Dragonblade, I can start a book and keep writing, and it's done, and then go on to the next, as opposed to chopping up. And I was doing contemporary books too, so I'd hop over and become Kathy Lyons, and then I'd have to come back and be Jade Lee, and this is not how my brain works.
Yeah. And that's a whole voice change too. When you're switching genres like that, that's a whole everything changes. So
yeah, my historical voice is a lot more lyrical, and the banter is slow. It's a little bit slower. Contemporary banter has to be very punchy.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's a rhythm change. It's, I don't know, I start echoing how I'm writing. So it's like my husband will look at me and say, oh, you're in that smart mouth contemporary phase. And oh yes, I like it better when you're in the flowy phase. And you wrote a love scene today, didn't you? He gets very happy on those days.
It's like, hey, sailor, nice to see you. Ladies, this was a treat. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us today. I really appreciate it. Jade, I especially appreciate you taking the time to talk to us from the car. Safe travels the rest of the time, and I hope that there are waffles in your future, because you should not sit in a Waffle House parking lot without having something good waiting for you at the end of it. So, for everybody,
I'm hoping this works. I'm hoping it gets through.
No, I'm sure. So I will pop, for everybody watching, I will pop the links to the books in the chat in case you haven't gotten them anyway, or haven't gotten them yet. You can pick them up now, so you have them for your weekend reading, and we will see everybody back here the same time next weekend. Ladies, thanks again for taking the time. I really do appreciate it.
Oh, pleasure.
Thank you. Yeah. Bye.
Bye.